Okay. No, that's okay with me. Yeah. See if I miss.
Oh, sorry. No. Okay.
All right.
Where do you want to stand?
Frank, you meet me back over here.
Okay.
Back to the sidewalk.
Okay. Sidewalk. Oh, we can be on the mats if you want.
Yeah.
This is good. The mats are good. Oh, I got. Guess mine.
So. Okay. You're not gonna turn me into one of those videos where you take down a reporter or something, right?
I might. Depends on what happens.
All right. So my name's Chris Reed. I work for APTN.
Okay.
Would you mind introducing yourself to me?
My name's Francis Widdowson. I was a professor who was wrongly terminated from Mount Royal University.
So you're here doing something you call spectrum street epistemology. What is that?
It's a method that was developed by Peter Boghossian, who was a professor from Portland State. He got pushed out of Portland State for discussing ideas. And he was alarmed by the fact that people can't seem to discuss the evidence for their claims. So it's basically a Socratic method, which was, developed in ancient Greece, where you just try to get people to explain their position. You ask them questions about why they believe the things that they do, and you see if they can recalibrate their position if they're presented with new evidence.
And why do that here now?
Because the University of Manitoba is in serious trouble and has been captured by indigenization and decolonization activists who are basically controlling the university and preventing a wide variety of ideas from being expressed about the residential schools.
And as I'm sure you're aware, this is the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation.
Yes, yep.
And this week is kind of a special week where they're doing a bunch of ceremonies and they're kind of acknowledging the tragedy of residential schools. Do you feel you picked the right time to come here and poke at this issue?
Definitely. This was the time to be here because I do agree with the statement that we need to have truth before we can have reconciliation. But what is meant by truth at the University of Manitoba is not what most people think truth is, which is trying to have an accurate understanding of reality. And what's going on is not an accurate understanding of reality, because places like the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation, they are keeping the records secret here. And those records need to be accessible to the public so we can have the full picture about the residential schools. And that's not happening. And we need to change things. And so I'm here specifically in this week to say, University of Manitoba, you need to become an academic institution. And they are not doing this, and they need to have open discussion and stop calling people like me a residential school denier, which is what the University of Manitoba Press did in its materials. And I had Daniel Page and I, who's my videographer, we had a big confrontation before this event with the director for the University of Manitoba Press.
Yeah. Is that Daniel Page over there?
Yes.
How concerned is he about what this might do to his career being involved in this here today?
I think he's willing to risk it because he thinks it's really important to fight for academic freedom in universities.
I've seen. I heard what you were saying about the satanic panic of the '80s, and I noticed in your essay that you referenced that. Can you kind of derive for me the comparison you make between the satanic panic and what we're seeing with the residential school grave story?
Yeah, and it's basically the Kevin Annett figure. He looms large in it. So Kevin Annett is a defrocked United Church minister. He's been telling a lot of tales since the 90s, and he was doing healing circles with people in Vancouver. and a number of people, Billy Coombs being one of them, were sort of taken under his wing, and a lot of really highly improbable stories started to emerge, one of them being that Queen Elizabeth II abducted 10 children from the Kamloops Indian Residential School in 1964, when Queen Elizabeth wasn't even in Kamloops, and even if she were, it would be very hard for a queen to abduct 10 children. Those kinds of stories, babies being incinerated, bodies being buried in residential school walls, all these kinds of things. So, and that's the thing, is that Aboriginal people are being traumatized by these stories. The Kamloops case, if you found out that, 215 children were put in clandestine graves and an apple orchard, it'd be very, very upsetting for you. So shouldn't we be telling people that it's highly improbable that this is the case? Wouldn't that be a good thing to kind of reduce the trauma that exists?
I notice in your essay that you do bring up Kevin Annett, and you brought him up here or just now. I mean, I had thought, correct me if I'm wrong, he's fairly widely discredited. Isn't he a bit of a straw man for you to be?
I don't think so, because I think a lot of the claims have tremendous similarities to Kevin Annett. And, people have watched if you watch Unrepentant, right? They see all the claims we made in Unrepentant. So I don't know, I haven't done a poll of I know the leadership were angry at him because he was a bit of a grandstander and he would show up in various contexts. But I think those stories, they have a Kevin Annett-like kind of feel to them. And maybe it's just a copycat, or, those kinds of things get into the air and then people are repeating them. And it just takes one person to be having a lot of discussions with other people, and you start to have these stories begin to being absorbed as actual memories of people.
What's your sense, though, from talking to people? I mean, do people widely believe the story about Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip abducting children? Because a couple
people today, I was surprised. There's an Aboriginal guy here today who was arguing about the Queen Elizabeth II story. So I find it, and I was at University of Regina, talking to a student there, and I just explained, because this is you might say it's a straw man argument, because who could believe that? But I say to people, Billy Coombs, there is evidence that he's actually saying that. So if we're going to believe all residential school survivors, everything that they say, we've got to believe Billy Coombs. And Billy Coombs said that Queen Elizabeth II abducted 10 children. So I'm just using it as an example that we can't just believe what residential school survivors say, because they could be misremembered. And it's not that and people say, I say they're lying. I'm not saying they're lying. Maybe they're lying, but it could easily be misremembering, confirmation bias, the idea that you've got to believe the knowledge keepers, all these things, which that's not a proper way to weigh evidence in any of these discussions.
One of the things that you get at is that there has been, ground penetrating radar done in some cases that is not absolute in terms of what it's saying is there. So they're saying they can see something in the ground and it looks like it might be a body. How do we move that along to better know what GPR is telling us, do you think?
Well, I have actually now interacted with a number of actual GPR experts, which are geoscience people who know how to read ground penetrating radar. And these are not these incompetents, Terence Clark, Keisha Supernant, Andrew Martindale. That is what they say what they're looking at is not, and they're saying that that's likely bodies. That is not the case at all. And I have now had some experience in following an actual geoscience scientist around and looking at these anomalies and looking at what you get out of that. And you will get boulders. You will get animal burrows. So GPR is incredibly inaccurate and is completely inconclusive. You must excavate if you're going to find what is beneath the soil. And the Kamloops Indian Band received $12.1 million to excavate. And they need to do those excavations because we need to reduce the trauma that Aboriginal people are experiencing. And we need to have truth for the Canadian public to figure out how to have actual reconciliation.
Right. You know, as you know, I mean, Catholic organizations ran a large number of residential schools. There's a lot of proven stories of, Catholic institutions being involved in abuse of children and covering it up. How much do you think that kind of knowledge that's out there in the world affects people's tendency to want to believe that this is true?
I think is likely, the Catholic Church is not blameless in all these things that have happened. The sexual abuse is widely, there's been a number of convictions as far as I understand about this. So, and it's a situation that happens not just for Aboriginal people, it happens in all, boarding school type situations. I'm saying that it's much worse for Aboriginal people because of the whole cultural difficulties and so on. So I think that's a big problem, but that's not, Catholics, if they murder people, murder children, that's a serious kind of breach of the Catholic theology. So I don't think that the evidence for the killing of people is very convincing. That's really my issue, not to deny the sexual abuse or anything like that. I'm an atheist myself. I have no interest whatsoever in all of the Christian kinds of dynamics. People can believe what they want, but I'm not trying to defend the Catholic Church. But if you're going to say that people murdered people, we need the names of the people who were supposedly murdered. We need the names of the perpetrators. We need the specifics. And that's what's got to happen now with all of these claims.
So, as I understand it, you wanted to give a talk here.
Yes.
You made some inquiries about that, and then what happened with that?
A professor tried to book. They said to this professor, I'm not going to name him because he's going to get in a lot of crap for this. No, not that. No. They told him that he could just go ahead and book the rooms. It's no problem. We support academic freedom. Anyway, he tried to book rooms. I believe it was at St. John's College, and they said they couldn't do it because it was going to harm their reconciliation efforts. Then he went through the regular channels, and they thought, and it's been going on since June. We've been trying to book these talks since June. I wanted to come in September because of the weather not being horrible and all the things going on. So they said that they were going to charge my organization, the Society for Academic Freedom and Scholarship, between $2,000 and $5,000. And my organization doesn't have very much money. And I'm certainly not going to devote that kind of money to nonsense, which has been created by the University of Manitoba. We had this event today. There's some drumming. It was nothing. There's nothing happened. Universities overreact. They don't tell people to behave properly, and they're just trying to avoid the issue. So it was a fantastic event. I had some Aboriginal people who participated, and we got to understand a lot more what their perspective was on the issue, and that's really what you want to do with spectrum student epistemology. So University of Manitoba, shame on them. You're a disgrace, and I'm going to hold you to account for what you've done here. You're in the university's Hall of Shame, and you can get out of it by inviting me back and not charging my organization between $2,000 and $5,000.
Now, I understand your nemesis, Egon Sinclair, is not here today,
Yep.
but I don't know if Sean Carlton is. Are you planning on knocking on his door?
I don't think so. I already had a big set to with the head of the University of Manitoba Press, so I don't want to push my election. The director, we went into the area because he said I was a residential school denier, and I wanted evidence for what he was talking about, and I thought that was a very, very damaging thing that his press had said, which I think is just, for an academic press to do that is absurd. Anyway, so we got him on camera, squirming as we talked to him about this.
Well, anything else you want to...
We're tomorrow at University of Winnipeg, 2:00 p.m. Egon Sinclair, the aforementioned Egon Sinclair, is on an event at 12 talking about how residential school denialism is a barrier to indigenization. So that's going to be the claim that we're going to investigate tomorrow at the University of Winnipeg.
Is he going to be there, or is there going to be?
I hope so.
Oh, good.
I extend an invitation, and I used to call them names, but I'm not doing that anymore. I turned over a new leaf, so I'm not going to be name calling. I invite both Negon Sinclair and Sean Carlton tomorrow to University of Winnipeg, and I will not call them any names.
Golly. Okay. Well, thanks for that.
Thank you very much. Anyway, okay, I think we're done. Thank you so much. I won't do the CBC thing that I did. Well, she was aggressive with me, so.
Yeah. Okay.